Along with their children, Nivea and Severo took up the entire third row of the benches. Clara was seated beside her mother, who squeezed her hand impatiently whenever the priest lingered too long on the sins of the flesh, for she knew that this would only lead the child to visualize with even greater accuracy aberrations that transcended reality. Clara was extremely precocious and had inherited the runaway imagination of all the women in her family on her mother's side. This was evident from the questions she asked, to which no one knew the answers. The temperature inside the church had risen, and the penetrating odour of the candles, the incense, and the tightly packed crowd all contributed to Nivea's fatigue. She wished the ceremony would end at once, so she could return to her cool house, sit down among the ferns, and taste the pitcher of barley water flavoured with almonds that Nana always made on holidays. She looked around at her children. The younger ones were tired and rigid in their Sunday best, and the older ones were beginning to squirm. Her gaze rested on Rosa, the oldest of her living daughters, and, as always, she was surprised. The girl's strange beauty had a disturbing quality that even she could not help noticing, for this child of hers seemed to have been made of a different material from the rest of the human race. Even before she was born, Nivea had known she was not of this world, because she had already seen in her dreams. This was why she had not been surprised when the midwife screamed as the child emerged. At birth, Rosa was white and smooth, without a wrinkle, like a porcelain doll with green hair and yellow eyes. The most beautiful creature to be born on earth since the days of original sin, as the midwife put it, making the sign of the cross. From her very first bath, Nana had washed her hair with chamomile, which softened its colour, giving it the hue of old bronze, and put her out in the sun with nothing on, to strengthen her skin, which was translucent, in the most delicate parts of her chest and armpits, where the veins and secret texture of the muscles could be seen. Nana's gypsy tricks did not suffice, however, and rumours quickly spread that Nivea had borne an angel. Nivea hoped that the successive and unpleasant stages of growth would bring her daughter a few imperfections, but nothing of the sort occurred. On the contrary, at 18, Rosa was still slender and remained unblemished. Her maritime grace had, if anything, increased. The tone of her skin, with its soft bluish lights, and of her hair, as well as her slow movements and silent character, all made one think of some inhabitant of the sea. There was something of the fish to her. If she had had a scaly tail, she would have been a mermaid, but her two legs placed her squarely on the tenuous line between human being and a creature of myth. Despite everything, the young woman had led a nearly normal life. She had a fiancé and would one day marry, on which occasion the responsibility of her beauty would become her husband's. Rosa bowed her head, and a ray of sunlight pierced the Gothic stained-glass windows of the church, outlining her face in a halo of light. A few people turned to look at her and whispered among themselves, as often happened when she passed, but Rosa seemed oblivious. She was immune to vanity, and that day she was more absent than usual, dreaming of new beasts to embroider on her tablecloth, creatures that were half bird and half mammal, covered with iridescent feathers and endowed with horns and hooves, and so fat and with such stubby wings that they defied the laws of biology and aerodynamics. She rarely thought of her fiancé Esteban Truba, not because she did not love him, but because of her forgetful nature, and because 2 years' absence is a long time. He was working in the mines of the north. He wrote to her regularly, and Rosa sometimes replied, sending him lines of poetry and drawings of flowers she had copied out on sheets of parchment paper.